Okay, so Nuremberg Principles, this is something you know a great deal about, and as you pointed out earlier, you teach them. This is, this is something you teach people about.
The Nuremberg Principles, in a sense, can't overstate their importance. The Magna Carta, the Constitution, because they came out of the Nuremberg war crimes trials of the senior Nazi leadership right after World War II, and they were sort of codified by a UN commission right after the trials ended. And, they're very short, but what they set out is incredibly important for international law.
So walk us through the principles. What do the principles say?
They do two things. One is they define the international crimes which were prosecuted at the Nuremberg war crimes trials. And the main one being aggressive war, the crime of aggressive war, or crime against peace. And then war crimes, shooting prisoners when they try to surrender and the like. And then there was a new one, which was extremely novel at the time, crimes against humanity, which were crimes committed against any civilian population, including a domestic population, because they wanted to be able to prosecute things that happened in Germany, both before the war and during the war. And the second major thing they did was they said that individual statesmen and officials could be held accountable for these crimes.
Right.
So the principles basically said, look, if you're responsible for getting your nation to commit a crime under international law, you, the national official, will be held accountable, regardless if the national law allowed you to commit the international crime or even directed you to commit the international crime. National law can no longer serve as a shield for violating international law. This code, if you will, of clinical research ethics or medical ethics. We can talk about the two main pillars of that ethical code, which is informed consent, and humans can't be basically a means to an end.
Right.
And some Western doctors sniffed, this is a code for barbarians. It doesn't apply to Western non-German doctors because we don't do this sort of thing. I know that the general line of the pro-vaccination establishment is that they don't cause the many problems. Many medical professionals know there's a causal link, but basically solve their consciences by saying, it's for the greater good. We do know that vaccines will do harm in 5% of cases, but the herd will benefit. The herd will benefit.
Right.
And that, in a sense, is, I think, in a very real sense, a violation of that principle that one human being shall not be sacrificed for the herd or for the greater good or for the life of anyone else.
Right, but my guess is that it's not true either. It's a great cop-out, but I doubt it's true. I don't know if you saw any of the excerpts from the vaccine summit in Switzerland. They had a presentation by a doctor from London whose job as an anthropologist is to determine why vaccines are getting so much pushback. And what she came back with is, we don't have scientific proof of safety. They have to mandate vaccines because when you look at how much healthier the unvaccinated are, at some point no one's going to vaccinate because no one wants to destroy their children's chance for a healthy life.
Look, I think there are different justifications given for mandatory vaccines. I think there are three different ones, and we need to keep separate. The one that sort of the establishment has gauged the public is that there is no causal link. Don't be silly, you're conspiracy theorists. Sit down and shut up and take your vaccine. That's where much of the battle is engaged, over whether there's a causal link. I suspect, though, that for many well-meaning doctors out there, they know that there's a causal link, but they salve their consciences with this idea, which is impermissible under the Nuremberg Code, that some have to be damaged. It's inevitable. Some will be damaged, but the herd will benefit over the all. I think that may be what their unacknowledged rationale is. It's impermissible, but I think that it might be what it is. And then there's a third rationale, which is even deeper, which is, no, it's not even a utilitarian one. It's just, we will harm these people. We have an agenda to degrade the population, to control them. And that's the, off the charts evil one that, of course, runs afoul of the Nuremberg Code.
So let me be the economics person. When the pharmaceutical companies want fetal tissue, it's fine for a woman to have an abortion. When the pharmaceutical companies want to give people vaccines, then autonomy can be overruled.
Yeah, absolutely. But my point is, they're not going to acknowledge that, and so let's take advantage of that. And as a matter of principle, if autonomy rules for women in that first trimester, why doesn't autonomy rule for people who don't want to take vaccinations?
Right.
Let's use their principles against them.
Right. I absolutely believe we'll have them linked, both the principles and the code and some of the related, the Hippocratic Oath, some of the others that relate to the Nuremberg Code. We'll have them linked in the commentary. And I really think it serves every citizen of whatever country to read them and understand them, and to understand that behavior that contradicts these is really, the tradition of our culture is it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable for a doctor to violate the Nuremberg Code or the Hippocratic Oath.
Just because we don't have a legal remedy directly under these principles or the code doesn't mean they're not effective. It can be as simple as you're doing the same thing the Nazi doctors did. It's just dressed up a little differently. What? I am? What do you mean? Or to the CDC or the FDA or, they should be invoked as a definite shaming mechanism. They're very useful politically.
Absolutely. Amy, it's always a pleasure. You have a wonderful day, and thank you again for making the time on such short notice to join us on the Solari Report. We had a lot of requests for this, and I know it's going to be deeply appreciated.
Thank you for letting me have another conversation with you, Catherine.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye.